Hi all. This is not a summary or an analysis of a poem that we'll be doing today, but rather it's something which I hope will help you in reading one of the poems by Margaret Atwood, which is titled Helen of Troy Does Countertop Dancing. And it's one of those beautiful poems which alludes to a mythical figure, at the same time tries to reread Helen of Troy. As is discussed in the poem, or as is beautifully sketched in the persona of the poem, Helen of Troy is not somebody who in the poem is being vied for, or somebody who for who the whole world is fighting for. She is not a figure who would cause a Trojan war, but basically Helen of Troy in this particular poem is trying to kind of subvert the myth of the beautiful Helen image and move to another level wherein there is a series of discussions happening about her body, and her reply to the discussion. So that is a way in which the entire poem is being structured. Then the poem is basically divided into three stanzas. The first and the last stanzas have around 19 to 20 lines, and the second stanza runs to around 44 to 45 lines. The first stanza is basically the women's take on this persona. She is assumed to be a bar dancer or a woman who works at the bar. And she is being asked by the other women to go and find another decent job, a job which will give you a minimum wage. And then the person says, yes, it's true that I can find another job, but I wish not to be standing just in one place for 8 hours and getting varicose veins. And I prefer to be as naked as meat sandwich. So in that particular line, the person tries to reflect the way in which the other women look at her, or not just the women, but the entire world tries to look at her. Being a bar dancer, she's just measured according to the standards of the body, or according to the standards of the flesh, which is why she says naked as a meat sandwich. And she tries to beautifully pit her body with what is being delivered in the bar. She's trying to pit her body with the image which you can borrow from the world of food. So basically that is how lust works, and that is how people look at her. She says, I prefer to be that, and she kind of says that prefer to be that as against bundled up to the neck behind a glass counter, which is the kind of the regular job which the women ask me to do. Maybe I am exploited, but at the same time she says I have a choice, because I've actually chosen this profession, and this is not a profession to which women easily fall into, but I've really chosen it because I'll take the money. So this is something which I do for money, and I know that I'm selling my body, and I'm selling I'm actually kind of buying the gaze of the men who come into the bar, and the women also who come to the bar, but I'll take the money, and I'm such a desperate person in real life that I need the money badly, and I don't really want to get it by doing a kind of a job which people consider to be decent, like standing behind a desk for 8 hours and getting a minimum wage. I prefer to do it my way, and I try, and I would definitely like to celebrate my body. And then in the next stanza, the poet actually tries to speak through the voice of the persona about how men perceive the body of women dancers. Helen of Troy, that is a persona here, of the modern Helen of Troy, I should say, who works in the bar. She knows that she's being gazed upon by the men, and she's supposed to keep smiling and smiling without saying anything in retort to all the vulgar comments they pass. Sometimes she has to pretend that she had not even heard what they were trying to tell her. And then she says, I am actually somebody who pretends not to hear them. At the same time, I don't hear them because I am a foreigner to them. And it is this alienated body of mine which actually makes them hate me after a while. After some time, they know that I am actually playing the game well than they are. And she says, men usually believe that everything is available in the market if they are ready to pay for it. And once they come to know that I am actually somebody who satisfies their customer needs, and I am actually playing the game upon them rather than they upon me, they start hating me. The worshippers suddenly start turning into haters. And she says this is actually basically what lust does, because she knows that the men who sit there with their mouths open are not really loving her body, but basically they are satisfying their desire for her body, and basically they are satisfying the lust. And she says, my mother was raped by a holy swan. Now here the poet alludes to the mythical origins of Helen of Troy. She is believed to have been born of Zeus and Leda, and Zeus had actually consummated with Leda in the form of a swan. And that's what she hints here, that my mother was basically somebody who was also a kind of a victim for the god's lust, or even you can call the lust of a divine figure, a mythical figure. Now, at the same time, in spite of claiming herself to be, really powerful and voicing out whatever she feels like about her body, the personer says, you can take me out to dinner. That's what we tell all the husbands. There sure are a lot of dangerous birds around. Now, Zeus comes to Leda so as while escaping from an eagle. That is how he comes to Leda in the form of a swan. So she says, I got dangerous men around me, men who are ready to satiate their hunger upon my body, men who would even harm my body. So sometimes I might wish that somebody would have taken me out for dinner. It's not just the lust part which was working, but there was somebody to love me, which is something which she tries to put in these lines. You can take me out to dinner, maybe I can have a normal life. I wish that I had a kind of a normal life, like a normal wife and a normal husband who would take me out to dinner and protect me from the dangerous birds around. But in the next stanza she says, I know nobody would ever do it, and I don't expect it, but I just would like you to understand. So she addresses a you over there. Maybe she addresses the reader, or maybe she addresses that prospective person who would finally love her, different from the other men who kind of lust for her, because she says the rest of them would like to watch me and feel nothing except you. So she and again she underlines how people look at her. They reduces her to parts. They try to measure and gauge each of her body part, reduce me to components as in a clock factory. So how she's being viewed upon, gazed upon by the people who look at her in a bar. And then she, in the final part of the poem, the persona talks for herself. Actually, all the while she was talking about how men look at her, how women look at her, how people generally consider her profession, etc. And then she says, look, my feet don't hit the marble. Like breath or a balloon, I am rising. I hover 6 inches in the air in my blazing swan egg of light. You think I'm not a goddess? Try me. This is a torch song. Touch me and you will burn. So finally, at the end of the poem, we would see the persona trying to affirm herself as an empowered mythical figure, I should say, as not as the usual Helen of Troy image which you get, but here is a Helen of Troy who would like to assert herself, who would like to assert her identity and say that You believe I'm not a goddess. You believe that because I go and dance on the stage of a bar, because I'm a bar dancer, because I do the countertop dancing, I have nothing divine in me. No, you are wrong. I am divine in me, and you will know it only if you try to touch me, because there is a lot of fire inside me. And this is a torch song. And she says, unlike the Helen of Troy in the myth, here is a real Helen who's alive, who is actually somebody who would rise up like a balloon if you actually try to touch her without her consent. So the poem is basically something which looks at a profession which is usually considered not to be such a decent, within quotes, profession by the usual patriarchal standards or by the standards of the society, but at the same time it tries to voice the longings, the aspirations, dreams, frustration and hope of a woman who works in a bar, and a woman who calls herself the Helen of Troy, and she is a modern Helen of Troy, quite different from the one you find in the Trojan War. Thank you.